What if everything you have ever believed about attracting money has been operating in reverse, and the very effort you have been pouring into your financial struggle has been the invisible force holding your abundance at arm's length? Pause for a moment and truly consider this question. You have worked. You have tried. You have affirmed and visualized and hoped with every fiber of your being that prosperity would find its way to your door. Yet something has remained stubbornly locked. Some invisible barrier has stood between you and the wealth that you sense, somewhere deep within, is rightfully yours. You have watched others rise while you remain stationary. You have wondered if there is some secret they possess that you have never been told. Tonight, I am going to reveal to you a principle so simple, so elegant, and so profoundly transformative that once you understand it, you will marvel that you ever struggled with money at all. I call it the 33-33-33 money rule, and it has changed the financial destiny of countless individuals who discovered its power and applied it with unwavering faith. This is not theory. This is not wishful thinking. This is the operation of an eternal law that governs the relationship between your inner mind and the material abundance of this universe. Within the next moments, you are going to learn how to divide your mental and spiritual approach to wealth into 3 equal parts that work in perfect harmony with the creative intelligence within you. You are going to discover why most people exhaust themselves with only one part while completely neglecting the other 2, and why this imbalance guarantees their continued lack. You are going to receive a framework that you can begin applying tonight, before your head touches the pillow, that will set into motion forces you cannot see but will certainly experience in the days and weeks ahead. If this message has found you, it is not by accident. Subscribe now to this channel and join the thousands who have committed to awakening the infinite power within. Press the like button as an act of faith, as a declaration to your own deeper mind that you are ready to receive what has always been waiting for you. And in the comments below, write these words: "My abundance flows in 3 perfect streams." As you type those words, feel their truth settling into the depths of your consciousness. You are not merely watching a video. You are beginning a transformation. Now let us begin. There is a passage in the ancient scriptures that has puzzled scholars and seekers for centuries, yet within it lies the seed of everything I am about to share with you. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the 4th verse of the 11th chapter, we read, "Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days." What does this mysterious instruction mean? What bread? What waters? And why shall it return after many days rather than immediately? When you understand the answer to these questions, you will possess the key that unlocks the treasury of the universe itself. The bread spoken of here is the substance of your consciousness, the mental and emotional content that you release into the infinite sea of mind that surrounds and permeates all things. The waters represent the great subconscious medium, both your own deeper mind and the universal subjective intelligence that responds to your impressed beliefs. And the reason it returns after many days is because there is a gestation period between the planting of a mental seed and its emergence into visible form. Understanding this timing, working with this rhythm rather than against it, is the first secret of those who have mastered the art of conscious wealth creation. But there is something even more vital contained within this verse, something that most readers completely miss. Notice the instruction says to cast your bread upon the waters. It does not say to clutch it tightly to your chest. It does not say to release it with one hand while grasping desperately with the other. The action required is complete release, total surrender into the medium that knows how to multiply and return what has been given. And here we arrive at the heart of what I call the 33-33-33 money rule. This principle recognizes that the manifestation of wealth requires 3 distinct phases, 3 equal commitments of your mental and spiritual energy, and that neglecting any one of these phases creates an imbalance that blocks the full expression of abundance in your experience. The first 33 concerns what you impress upon your subconscious mind. The second 33 concerns what you release from your subconscious mind. The third 33 concerns what you allow to express through you without resistance or interference. Equal weight must be given to each phase, for they operate together as a unified whole. Most people pour all their energy into the first phase, the impressing, while completely ignoring the releasing and the allowing. This is why they exhaust themselves with affirmations and visualizations yet see little change in their outer circumstances. Let me share with you the experience of a man I shall call Samuel, who came to understand this principle in a way that transformed not only his financial life but his entire relationship with the creative power within him. Samuel had operated a small accounting practice for nearly 18 years. He was competent, honest, and hardworking, yet year after year his income remained essentially the same. He watched younger practitioners with less experience build thriving practices while his own growth seemed permanently stunted. Samuel had read extensively about the power of the subconscious mind. He practiced affirmations each morning, declaring his prosperity and success. He created detailed vision boards showing the home he desired, the vacation he dreamed of taking, the financial freedom he longed to experience. He did everything he believed was required, yet nothing changed. After 18 years of this effort, he had nearly given up hope. Then something remarkable happened. Samuel attended a gathering where he heard a teaching on the three-phase nature of mental creation. For the first time, he understood why his efforts had produced so little fruit. He had been impressing continuously, yes, but he had never learned to release. And because he had never released, he was unconsciously blocking everything he had impressed from expressing through him. What does it mean to release? Consider the farmer who plants a seed in the earth. After covering it with soil, does he return every few minutes to dig it up and examine whether it has begun to sprout? Of course not. Such behavior would guarantee that no harvest would ever come. The seed requires darkness. It requires the absence of interference. It requires that the farmer walk away and leave it alone, trusting completely in the intelligence within the seed that knows exactly how to unfold into the fullness of its potential. Yet this is precisely what most people do with their mental seeds. They plant affirmations of wealth in the morning, then spend the rest of the day digging them up with worry and anxiety. They visualize abundance for 15 minutes, then contradict that vision for the next 15 hours with thoughts of lack and limitation. They impress the desire, but they never release it into the deeper medium that alone has the power to bring it into form. Samuel realized that his 18 years of impressing without releasing had created a kind of mental constipation. He had stuffed his consciousness so full of unfulfilled desires that there was no room for anything to actually emerge. He had never trusted enough to let go. He had never walked away from the planted seed. He had been hovering over his mental garden with the anxiety of one who does not truly believe in the growing power of the soil. He began that very night to practice a different approach. After performing his usual evening impression, declaring his prosperity and feeling the reality of abundant provision, he added something new. He spoke these words to his own deeper mind: I now release this desire completely into your wisdom and power. I let it go absolutely. I will not think about it again with anxiety. I will not dig it up with worry. I trust you completely to bring forth the perfect manifestation in the perfect way at the perfect time. It is done. I release it now. And then, the most difficult part of all, he actually stopped thinking about it. When worry tried to creep in, he reminded himself that the seed was planted and that hovering over it would only delay its sprouting. When doubt whispered that nothing would change, he answered that he had released the matter entirely and that his job now was simply to remain in a state of peaceful expectancy. Within 3 months, Samuel's practice had doubled. A series of referrals came to him seemingly from nowhere. A corporate client sought him out for a long-term contract. Opportunities that had never appeared in 18 years suddenly began appearing weekly. But the most remarkable change was not external. Samuel felt different. He moved through his days with a lightness he had never experienced. The burden of trying to force his good to come had been lifted, and in its place was a calm certainty that the law was operating on his behalf. This is the principle of the first and second 33 working in harmony. You must impress with feeling and conviction, yes, but you must then release with equal completeness. The impression without the release is like inhaling without exhaling. You will simply bloat yourself with unrealized desires until you can hold no more. But there is still the third 33, and this is where the mystery deepens and the power becomes truly miraculous. The third 33 is the phase of allowing. It concerns your willingness to receive what you have impressed and released, your capacity to accept the good that is moving toward you without shrinking from it, questioning it, or unconsciously pushing it away. And this, I tell you truly, is where most manifestations die within sight of completion. There was a woman I shall call Margaret who demonstrated this principle with heartbreaking clarity. Margaret had lost her husband to a sudden illness 7 years prior. He had left little in the way of financial provision, and she had struggled ever since, working jobs far below her capabilities and living in constant fear of running out of money. She learned of these principles and applied them with unusual dedication. She impressed upon her subconscious mind the reality of abundant provision. She released her desires completely, trusting in the infinite intelligence to bring about her good. And something began to happen. First, she was offered a position that paid nearly twice her current salary. But when the offer came, Margaret found herself hesitating. The company was located in a different part of town. She would have to learn new systems. She would be working with people she did not know. Perhaps, she thought, this was not really her good. Perhaps she should wait for something better, something more comfortable, something that did not require her to stretch beyond her current limitations. She declined the position. A few months later, an elderly aunt whom she had not seen in years passed away and left Margaret a surprising inheritance. But when the lawyer contacted her, Margaret immediately became suspicious. There must be some mistake. This could not really be for her. There were probably other relatives who deserved it more. She should refuse it and let it go to someone else. She nearly convinced herself to reject this gift before a friend intervened and helped her see what she was doing. Margaret was impressing correctly. She was releasing correctly. But she was refusing to allow. When her good tried to manifest, she pushed it away with feelings of unworthiness, with fears about change, with beliefs that good things could not really be meant for her. She was standing at the gate of her own abundance, key in hand, refusing to turn the lock because she could not believe that what waited on the other side could actually belong to her. This is why the third 33 is equal in importance to the first and second. You must open yourself completely to receive. You must practice what I call receptive acceptance, which means welcoming your good in whatever form it arrives, through whatever channel it comes, by whatever means the infinite intelligence chooses to use. When opportunity knocks, you must answer. When provision arrives, you must receive it with gratitude rather than suspicion. When the universe extends its abundant hand, you must take what is offered rather than stepping back and wondering if you truly deserve it. In the Gospel of Mark, the 24th verse of the 11th chapter, we find this instruction: Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Notice the tense of this statement. Believe that ye receive them, present tense, not that you will receive them at some future time. The receiving happens in consciousness first. The outer manifestation follows the inner acceptance. If you cannot receive it in mind, you cannot receive it in form. Margaret eventually came to understand this principle. She recognized that her subconscious mind had been programmed from childhood to believe that she was not worthy of abundance, that good things were for other people, that she should always step aside and let others receive what the universe was trying to give her. She began deliberately reprogramming this belief. Each night, in that sacred moment before sleep when the conscious mind relaxes its grip and the subconscious becomes supremely receptive, she impressed this truth upon her deeper mind: I am worthy to receive. I am open to receive. I accept my good now, in whatever form it comes. I do not question it. I do not resist it. I welcome it with an open heart. Within a year, Margaret's entire financial situation had been transformed. But more importantly, her inner sense of worthiness had been healed. She moved through the world as one who expected good things, and good things responded to that expectation. Let me now speak more deeply about the mechanism through which these three phases operate. Your subconscious mind is not merely a personal possession. It is a point of connection to a far vaster intelligence that permeates all things. When you impress a desire upon your deeper mind with feeling and conviction, you are not simply creating a mental picture within your own skull. You are dropping a pebble into an infinite ocean, and the ripples extend outward in ways you cannot trace, touching other minds, arranging circumstances, drawing toward you the people and opportunities and resources that align with what you have impressed. But this infinite intelligence cannot work against your will. If you impress abundance but then refuse to release your anxiety about money, you are giving contradictory instructions. If you release your desire but then refuse to allow your good to manifest, you are blocking the very channels through which your answered prayer must come. The 33 rule ensures that you are giving consistent instructions at every phase of the creative process. Consider for a moment the principle that Jesus taught in the 7th chapter of Matthew: Ask, and it shall be given you; seek, and ye shall find; knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Here we see three distinct actions, not one. Asking corresponds to impressing. Seeking corresponds to releasing, for the seeker walks forward in faith, trusting that what they seek exists and is findable. Knocking corresponds to allowing, for the one who knocks is ready to enter when the door opens. All three actions must be completed for the promise to be fulfilled. I want to speak now about the role of feeling in each of these three phases, because feeling is the secret power that makes the difference between a wish that evaporates and a conviction that transforms reality. When you impress a desire upon your subconscious mind, it is not enough to merely think the thought or speak the words. You must feel the reality of what you are claiming. The subconscious mind does not respond to words alone. It responds to the emotional charge behind those words. If you affirm "I am wealthy" while feeling poverty in your heart, your subconscious receives the feeling, not the affirmation. It proceeds to manifest more of what you truly feel rather than what you merely say. There was a young man I shall call David who discovered this truth through careful experimentation. David worked as a salesman for a company that manufactured industrial equipment. His income was entirely commission-based, and for the first 2 years of his career, he struggled to make ends meet. He would approach potential customers with a feeling of desperation, silently hoping they would buy because he needed the money so badly. Somehow, customers seemed to sense this desperation, and more often than not, they declined to purchase. David learned of the principle that his outer circumstances were reflecting his inner state. He began to practice what he called emotional rehearsal. Each morning, before making a single sales call, he would spend 20 minutes feeling the satisfaction of a successful day. He did not merely visualize sales, he felt the confidence, the gratitude, the quiet assurance of one who knows that abundant orders are flowing to him easily and naturally. He imagined himself at the end of the day, reviewing his successful calls, feeling the deep satisfaction of a job well done. At first, this practice seemed foolish. He was manufacturing feelings that had no basis in his current reality. But he persisted, remembering that the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined with feeling and what is actually happening. To the deeper mind, the feeling is the reality. Within 6 weeks, David's sales began to improve. Within 3 months, he had become the top producer in his office. Within a year, he was earning more than he had ever dreamed possible. But when asked what had changed, he did not point to new techniques or better products. He pointed to the change in his feeling. He had learned to feel wealthy before the wealth appeared, to feel successful before success manifested, to feel confident before confidence was justified by outer results. This is the secret of feeling in the impression phase. You must generate within yourself the emotional state that would naturally accompany the fulfillment of your desire, and you must do this before any evidence appears to support such a feeling. This is faith in its highest expression. Faith is not believing that something might happen in the future. Faith is feeling the reality of something now, in the present moment, regardless of what your physical senses are reporting. But feeling is equally important in the release phase. When you release your desire to the subconscious mind, you must release it with a feeling of complete trust and peace. Anxiety during release is like releasing a bird while keeping a string tied to its leg. The bird cannot fly freely, it is still bound to you and cannot accomplish its mission. When you release with anxiety, you are not truly releasing at all. You are performing a ritual of release while maintaining an emotional grip that negates the release entirely. The feeling that accompanies true release is peace. It is the calm certainty that the matter has been handled, that there is nothing more for you to do, that the intelligence within you knows exactly how to bring about the perfect manifestation. It is the feeling of a child who asks a loving parent for something and then runs off to play, completely unconcerned about whether the request will be fulfilled, knowing with innocent certainty that the parent can be trusted. I remember the story of a woman named Eleanor who struggled with this phase for many years. Eleanor was a piano teacher who desired to purchase a grand piano for her studio. She had impressed this desire faithfully, visualizing the beautiful instrument, feeling the joy of playing upon it, hearing the rich tones in her imagination. But she could not release. Every day, she would check her bank account to see if the money for the piano had appeared. Every night, she would calculate how many lessons she would need to teach to afford the purchase. She was impressing with one hand and holding on with the other. A friend who understood these principles asked Eleanor a simple question: if you truly believed that God had heard your prayer and the piano was already yours in the unseen realm, waiting to manifest, how would you feel right now? Eleanor thought about this and answered that she would feel relieved, peaceful, and happy. Her friend then asked, "And how do you actually feel?" Eleanor admitted that she felt worried, impatient, and frustrated. This simple contrast showed Eleanor that she had not truly released her desire at all. She was still carrying it as a burden rather than allowing it to be carried for her. That night, she performed a conscious act of release. She said to her own deeper mind, "I now release this desire completely. I trust you to bring it about in the perfect way. I will not worry about this anymore. I will feel the peace of one whose prayer has already been answered, even though I cannot yet see the answer with my physical eyes." 3 weeks later, Eleanor received a telephone call that changed everything. A wealthy patron of the arts in her community had heard of her teaching work and wished to donate a grand piano that had belonged to her late mother. The piano was delivered to Eleanor's studio at no cost to her. But the miracle, she later explained, was not the piano itself. The miracle was the peace she had discovered when she finally learned to release. The feeling in the allowing phase is perhaps the most challenging of all to master. It is the feeling of worthiness, of deservingness, of open-armed reception. For so many people, this feeling has been corrupted by childhood messages of unworthiness, by religious teachings that equated desire with sin, by cultural programming that suggested it was noble to sacrifice and ignoble to receive. To heal this wounded sense of worthiness requires a deep understanding of your true nature. You are not a mere accident of biology, a random occurrence in a meaningless universe. You are an expression of the infinite intelligence that creates and sustains all things. The same power that fashions galaxies and ignites stars is the power that beats your heart and thinks through your brain. You are made in the image and likeness of the creative principle itself. How could such a being be unworthy to receive the abundance that the universe naturally provides? In the 23rd Psalm, we read these beautiful words, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." To say "I shall not want" is to declare that lack is not your portion, that insufficiency is not your destiny, that the universe is structured to provide for your needs just as certainly as it provides for the needs of every living creature. The birds of the air do not worry about where their next meal will come from. The flowers of the field do not struggle to clothe themselves in beauty. Yet you, created with the power of conscious direction over the forces of your own mind, often twist yourself into knots of anxiety about provision. The third 33 asks you to practice the feeling of easy reception. When good comes to you, receive it graciously. When opportunity presents itself, accept it without excessive questioning. When abundance flows in your direction, open your arms and welcome it as a natural expression of the laws that govern this universe. You do not thank the sun for shining as though it were doing you an unusual favor. You accept the sunlight as a natural provision. Learn to accept financial abundance with the same naturalness as your birthright, as the inevitable result of aligning yourself with the creative law. There is a great mystery in the relationship between your individual mind and the universal mind of which it is a part. You are both a distinct expression and an inseparable element of the infinite whole. Your subconscious mind operates according to universal principles that do not change based on your personal history or your family background or your current bank account balance. The law that worked for the prophets of old works for you today. The principle that multiplied loaves and fishes operates in your consciousness this very moment, awaiting only your recognition and acceptance. When you understand the 33 rule, you understand that your role in the manifestation of wealth is threefold and equally weighted. You must impress with feeling and clarity. You must release with trust and peace. You must allow with openness and worthiness. When all three phases are operating in harmony, you become a clear channel through which abundance flows without obstruction. Let me speak now about the importance of consistency and persistence in applying this principle. The subconscious mind responds to repeated impression. It is influenced by what you consistently think and feel, not by what you occasionally attempt. If you practice the 33 rule for 3 days and then return to your old patterns of worry and doubt, you have accomplished very little. The old patterns have been established over years or even decades. They cannot be overwritten by a few days of half-hearted practice. Commit yourself to a period of sustained application. 30 days is a common recommendation, but I suggest extending this to at least 60 or 90 days. During this period, maintain your practice with unwavering consistency. Each day, engage in conscious impression. Each day, practice deliberate release. Each day, cultivate the feeling of open reception. Do not evaluate your progress during this period. Do not look for signs that the law is working. Simply continue the practice, trusting that the seeds you are planting are germinating beneath the surface of visible events. There was a businessman named Herbert who applied this principle with remarkable discipline. Herbert owned a manufacturing company that had fallen on difficult times. Orders had declined, debts had mounted, and bankruptcy seemed increasingly likely. Herbert had only 90 days before a major loan payment would come due, a payment he currently had no way to make. Rather than collapsing into despair, Herbert decided to make these 90 days an experiment in the application of mental law. Each morning, he spent 30 minutes in the impression phase, feeling the relief and gratitude of a company that had been rescued from its difficulties, visualizing himself signing contracts, seeing his warehouse filled with orders. Each afternoon, he practiced 5 minutes of conscious release, surrendering the situation entirely to the wisdom within, declaring that he had done what was his to do and that he now trusted the infinite intelligence to handle the details. Each evening, he cultivated the feeling of worthiness, reminding himself that he deserved to succeed, that his company deserved to thrive, that abundance was not something he had to earn through suffering but something he had only to allow through acceptance. The first month brought nothing visible. The second month, a few small orders trickled in, but nothing significant. Herbert's logical mind screamed that he was wasting time, that he should be doing something practical instead of engaging in mental exercises. But he had committed to 90 days, and he refused to abandon his practice. In the 73rd day, everything changed. A former client contacted Herbert with an enormous order, the largest single contract in the company's history. The down payment alone was enough to cover the looming loan payment with money to spare. Within the remaining 17 days of his experiment, 2 additional major contracts materialized. By the end of the 90 days, Herbert's company had gone from the brink of bankruptcy to its most profitable quarter ever. When Herbert reflected on what had happened, he recognized that the turnaround had been preceded by a complete transformation in his own consciousness. He had shifted from fear to faith, from grasping to releasing, from unworthiness to confident reception. The outer change had followed the inner change, as it always must. The law had operated precisely as it was designed to operate. You possess within you, at this very moment, everything needed to transform your financial life. You are not waiting for some external savior to rescue you. You are not dependent on luck or chance or the favor of others. The kingdom of heaven, the source of all manifestation, is within you, as Jesus plainly taught. Your subconscious mind is connected to infinite intelligence and unlimited resources. When you learn to work with this mind correctly, through proper impression, complete release, and open reception, you align yourself with the very power that creates worlds. The 33-33-33 money rule is not a gimmick or a trick. It is a recognition of how the creative process actually works. It corrects the imbalance that keeps so many sincere seekers trapped in lack despite their best efforts. It provides a framework for consistent practice that yields consistent results. And it returns to you the power you have given away to external circumstances, reminding you that you are the operant power in your own world. As we approach the end of this first portion of our teaching, I want you to consider something of vital importance. The principles I am sharing with you are not new. They are as old as consciousness itself. They have been taught by sages and prophets and awakened teachers throughout human history. But knowing these principles intellectually and applying them consistently are 2 very different things. Many who hear this teaching will nod in agreement and then return to their old patterns of thought and feeling. They will wonder why their lives do not change while ignoring the fact that they have not changed their mental habits. Do not be among those who hear and do not apply. Tonight, when you prepare for sleep, practice the first phase of the 33 rule. Impress upon your subconscious mind, with feeling and conviction, the reality of the abundance you desire. See it. Feel it. Accept it as already accomplished in the unseen realm. Then practice the second phase. Release your desire completely into the wisdom of your deeper mind. Let it go. Trust absolutely. And then practice the third phase. Feel yourself worthy to receive, open to receive, ready to welcome your good in whatever form it chooses to arrive. Do this tonight. Do this tomorrow night. Do this every night until these phases become as natural as breathing. The riches of the infinite are waiting to flow into expression through you. The only question is whether you will prepare yourself to receive them. There is so much more to share, so much deeper we must go into the practical application of these eternal principles. The foundation has been laid in what I have spoken thus far. But the structure must now be raised upon this foundation, and that is what we shall do as we continue. Remember what I have told you. Equal weight to each phase. 33% to impressing. 33% to releasing. 33% to allowing. This is the balance that opens the floodgates. This is the harmony that permits the universe to pour its abundance through you without obstruction. The infinite power that created the stars burns within your own consciousness. The wisdom that orchestrates the movements of galaxies whispers in your deeper mind. You have never been alone. You have never been abandoned. You have simply been operating with an incomplete understanding of how to work with the very power that seeks to express through you. That incomplete understanding is being healed now. That imbalance is being corrected now. You are being restored to your rightful relationship with the source of all supply, and nothing in this world can prevent the manifestation of your good when you align yourself correctly with the law that governs all manifestation. Carry these truths with you. Ponder them deeply. Apply them faithfully. And watch as your financial life transforms in ways that will astonish you and serve as a testimony to the power that sleeps within every human heart, waiting only to be awakened by understanding and activated by faith. We continue now with what may be the most important portion of this teaching, for it is in the application that truth becomes power, and it is in the persistence that temporary practice becomes permanent transformation. I have laid before you the structure of the 33-33-33 money rule. I have explained why equal attention must be given to impressing, releasing, and allowing. I have shared with you the experiences of those who discovered this balance and witnessed its miraculous effects in their financial lives. But now we must go deeper still, into the subtle obstacles that prevent sincere seekers from applying what they have learned, and into the advanced practices that accelerate manifestation beyond what most people believe possible. The first obstacle I must address is the obstacle of divided consciousness. This is perhaps the most common reason why well-intentioned people fail to demonstrate the abundance they seek. They affirm prosperity in the morning and worry about bills in the afternoon. They visualize wealth before sleep and awaken to thoughts of lack. They are, as the Apostle James described, double-minded, and the double-minded person receives nothing from the law because they are giving contradictory instructions to the creative medium. Your subconscious mind is always listening. It does not take breaks. It does not distinguish between your formal practice times and your informal thought patterns throughout the day. Every thought charged with feeling is an impression. Every habitual mental state is a command. If you spend 15 minutes each day in conscious prosperity practice but 15 hours in unconscious poverty consciousness, which pattern do you imagine will dominate your experience? This is why the 33 rule must extend beyond formal practice sessions into the fabric of your daily mental life. The releasing phase, in particular, is not something you do once and complete. It is an ongoing practice of catching yourself when you return to worry and deliberately choosing trust instead. Each time anxiety about money arises, you must recognize it as an attempt to dig up the seed you have planted, and you must refuse to participate. You must say to yourself, with calm authority, I have released this matter. It is being handled by an intelligence greater than my conscious mind. I return now to peace. There was a woman I shall call Constance who learned this lesson through what she later called her year of vigilance. Constance had practiced subconscious mind principles for over a decade with minimal results. She knew the theory perfectly. She could quote teachings from memory. Yet her financial life remained stubbornly unchanged, hovering always at the level of just enough but never more. During a period of deep reflection, Constance decided to conduct an honest audit of her mental life. For 1 week, she carried a small notebook with her everywhere and made a mark each time she noticed a thought of financial worry, lack, or limitation passing through her mind. At the end of the week, she counted the marks. There were over 300. This number shocked Constance into recognition. She had been canceling her morning affirmations with hundreds of contradictory thoughts throughout each day. Her formal practice was like pouring water into a bucket riddled with holes. No matter how much she poured, nothing accumulated because everything leaked out through the thoughts she had not been monitoring. Constance committed to what she called a year of vigilance. During this year, she would treat every thought of lack as an alarm bell calling her back to the truth. She would not fight these thoughts or condemn herself for having them. She would simply notice them, refuse to feed them with emotional energy, and replace them with a brief affirmation of trust. This is not the truth about me. I am provided for. The law is working on my behalf. The first month was exhausting. Constance felt like she was playing an endless game of mental whack-a-mole, constantly catching and releasing thoughts of poverty and fear. But gradually, something shifted. The negative thoughts began appearing less frequently. The affirmations of trust began feeling more natural. By the 6th month, Constance noticed that she was going hours at a time without a single thought of financial worry. By the end of the year, peace about money had become her default state rather than something she had to struggle to achieve. And her outer circumstances had transformed to match her inner state. Opportunities had appeared. Income had increased. Debts had been paid. But Constance knew that these outer changes were effects, not causes. The cause was the healing of her divided consciousness, the establishment of a unified mental state that no longer sent contradictory signals to the creative medium within her. This is what I mean when I say that the releasing phase must become a way of life rather than a technique performed at designated times. You must become one who lives in release, who walks through the day in a state of surrendered trust, who refuses to pick up the burden of worry no matter how many times circumstances invite you to do so. In the 4th chapter of Philippians, the 19th verse, we find this glorious promise, "But my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory." Notice the scope of this promise. All your need. Not some of your needs, not the needs that seem reasonable, not the needs that you feel you deserve. All. And notice the measure of the supply. According to his riches in glory. Not according to the current state of the economy, not according to your employment situation, not according to your age or education or background. According to infinite riches, limitless supply, the inexhaustible treasury of the creative principle itself. When you truly accept this promise, worry becomes impossible. How can you worry about provision when the infinite has pledged itself to supply all your need? How can you doubt your sufficiency when you are drawing from a source that cannot be depleted? The releasing phase becomes natural and easy when you rest upon the certainty of this divine promise. Let me now address a question that arises frequently among those who are learning to apply these principles. What about action? What about effort? Am I supposed to simply sit in meditation and wait for money to fall from the sky? This question reveals a misunderstanding that must be corrected. The 33 rule does not eliminate action. It transforms the nature and source of your action. When you operate from a consciousness of lack, your actions are driven by fear and desperation. They are scattered, exhausting, and often counterproductive. You grasp at every opportunity without discrimination. You work feverishly without wisdom. You push and strain and struggle, believing that the amount of your effort determines the amount of your reward. But when you have impressed your prosperity upon your deeper mind, released it completely, and opened yourself to receive, something remarkable happens to your actions. They become inspired rather than desperate. They become selective rather than scattered. They become effective rather than merely effortful. You find yourself drawn to the right opportunities at the right time. You discover that doors open before you as you approach. You experience what can only be described as a flow state in your financial affairs, where the right actions arise naturally from the fertile soil of your transformed consciousness. There was a young entrepreneur named Victor who demonstrated this principle beautifully. Victor had an idea for a business but no capital to launch it. He had approached numerous investors and been rejected repeatedly. Each rejection deepened his sense of desperation, and this desperation colored every subsequent meeting. Potential investors sensed something hungry and grasping in Victor's presentation, and they instinctively withdrew. Victor learned of the 33 rule and decided to apply it to his situation. He impressed upon his subconscious mind the reality of abundant funding flowing to his venture. He saw the investment in his imagination, felt the satisfaction of launching with adequate capital, heard himself thanking his investors for their partnership. Then he released this vision completely, declaring to his deeper mind that the matter was handled and that the right investors would appear at the perfect time. And he cultivated a feeling of worthiness, reminding himself that his idea had value and that he deserved to receive the support necessary to bring it to life. Something shifted in Victor's presentation after this practice. He was still sharing the same information, but the energy behind his words had changed entirely. He no longer approached investors from need but from offering. He was not asking them to rescue him but inviting them to participate in something valuable. The desperation had been replaced by quiet confidence. The grasping had been replaced by open-handed generosity. Within 3 weeks, Victor had secured more funding than he had originally sought. 2 of the investors who had previously rejected him actually returned and asked if they could still participate. When Victor asked what had changed their minds, one of them said something he never forgot: "You're different now. Before, you seemed like you were drowning and needed us to save you. Now you seem like you're sailing somewhere exciting and inviting us to come along. That's a much more attractive proposition." This story illustrates that inspired action does not arise from forcing yourself to do more. It arises from becoming someone whose actions carry a different energy because they flow from a transformed consciousness. The law handles the heavy lifting. Your job is to remain aligned with the law and then to act upon the guidance and opportunities that naturally emerge from that alignment. Now I wish to speak about the crucial practice of pre-sleep impression, for this is the time when your subconscious mind is most receptive and when your impressions carry the greatest creative power. In the moments just before sleep, your conscious mind relaxes its ordinary vigilance. The critical faculty that filters and analyzes information during waking hours begins to withdraw. Your subconscious mind, which has been receiving impressions through this filter all day, suddenly finds itself with direct access to whatever you are thinking and feeling. This is a sacred window of opportunity. What you impress upon your mind in these moments will work in your consciousness throughout the hours of sleep, when the subconscious is free to operate without interference from conscious doubt or contradiction. The ancient wisdom knew this. In the 4th Psalm, the 4th verse, we read, "Commune with your own heart upon your bed, and be still." This is an instruction for pre-sleep impression. Commune with your own heart, speak to your deeper mind. Upon your bed, in that state of relaxation that precedes sleep. And be still, quiet the mental noise so that your impression can be received clearly and powerfully. I recommend the following practice for the impression phase of the 33 rule. Each night, as you prepare for sleep, allow your body to relax completely. Release all tension from your muscles. Let the concerns of the day fall away. Then, in this relaxed and receptive state, bring to mind the financial reality you wish to create. Do not merely think about it. Feel it. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If you wish to be debt-free, feel the freedom and relief of owing nothing. If you wish to have abundant savings, feel the security and peace of having more than enough. If you wish to experience a specific income, feel the naturalness of receiving it. Stay with this feeling until it becomes more real to you than your current circumstances. Let it saturate your consciousness. Let it be the last thing you experience before you drift into sleep. Then release it completely, trusting your subconscious to work with this seed throughout the night, to connect with infinite intelligence, to begin arranging the circumstances that will bring about its manifestation. There was a man named Frederick who practiced this technique with remarkable dedication for 90 consecutive nights. Frederick was a school teacher who had always struggled financially. His salary was modest, and his attempts to supplement his income had never succeeded. He felt trapped in a life of limitation with no apparent way out. Each night, as he lay in bed, Frederick would imagine himself reviewing his bank statement and seeing a balance that represented complete financial freedom. He would not specify an exact number, trusting his subconscious to know what was needed. He would simply feel the wave of relief, gratitude, and security that such a balance would bring. He would stay with this feeling until it felt absolutely real, more real than his actual balance, more real than his current struggles. For the first 30 nights, nothing visibly changed. For the next 30 nights, small encouraging signs began appearing. An unexpected check from an old investment he had forgotten about. A small raise at his school. A side tutoring opportunity that seemed to find him rather than the other way around. But it was in the final 30 nights of his practice that the transformation became unmistakable. Frederick received news that a distant relative had named him as primary beneficiary of an estate he had not known existed. The inheritance, when settled, exceeded anything he had ever imagined possible. His financial struggles were over permanently. When Frederick reflected on what had happened, he recognized that the inheritance had been arranged long before he began his 90-night practice. The relative had written the will years earlier. Yet somehow, the sequence of events that brought this inheritance into Frederick's awareness and possession aligned precisely with his period of concentrated impression. The law had orchestrated circumstances across time and space to bring about the manifestation of his assumed wish. This is what I mean when I say that the subconscious mind is not limited by apparent obstacles. It does not reason backward from your current circumstances to determine what is possible. It reasons forward from your impressed belief to arrange whatever circumstances are necessary to fulfill it. It has access to information you do not consciously possess. It can influence situations you know nothing about. It works, as the scriptures say, in ways past finding out. Let me now address another subtle obstacle that trips up many earnest seekers, the attachment to specific channels. When you impress a desire for abundance upon your subconscious mind, you must not dictate how that abundance should arrive. You must not insist that it come through your job, through this investment, through that opportunity. When you do so, you limit the infinite to the pathways your conscious mind can conceive, and your conscious mind can only conceive a tiny fraction of the pathways available to omniscience. In the 4th to 5th chapter of Isaiah, the 2nd and 3rd verses, we find these remarkable words, "I will go before thee, and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and cut in sunder the bars of iron, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness, and hidden riches of secret places." Consider what is being promised here. Crooked places made straight, obstacles that seem insurmountable being removed. Gates of brass, barriers that appear impenetrable, being broken in pieces. Bars of iron, limitations that seem permanent, being cut asunder. And then, most remarkably, treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places. These are sources of abundance that you cannot see, channels of provision that are hidden from your conscious awareness, pathways of prosperity that exist in the darkness of the unknown but which the infinite intelligence can access on your behalf. When you release your desire, you must release your attachment to specific channels. You must say to your deeper mind, "Bring this to me in whatever way is best." Use whatever channels you choose. I do not limit you to what I can see or imagine. I trust you to know secret places and hidden riches that I cannot conceive. There was a professional named Genevieve who learned this lesson in a way that transformed her understanding of how manifestation operates. Genevieve was an attorney who wished to attract a major client that would stabilize her practice and provide consistent income. She impressed this desire faithfully, visualizing herself working with an ideal client, feeling the security and satisfaction of a thriving practice. But Genevieve made the mistake of becoming attached to a specific channel. She identified a particular corporation as her ideal client and focused all her intention on attracting their business. She networked at events where their executives would be present. She sent proposals to their legal department. She did everything she could think of to open this specific door. The door remained closed. Despite her best efforts, the corporation showed no interest in engaging her services. Genevieve became discouraged and began to doubt whether the law worked at all. Then something unexpected happened. A childhood friend she had not seen in 20 years reached out to reconnect. During their conversation, the friend mentioned that her husband had recently been promoted to a senior position at a company that was restructuring its legal services. Within a month, Genevieve had been retained by this company for a contract even larger than what she had sought from her target corporation. The abundance she had impressed had manifested, but through a channel she could never have anticipated. A childhood friend, a chance reconnect, a husband's promotion at a company she had not even known existed. The hidden riches of a secret place had been revealed. The treasures of darkness had been brought into light. Genevieve later reflected that if she had remained fixated on her chosen channel, she might have missed this opportunity entirely. She might have been so focused on the closed door that she failed to notice the open one. From that time forward, she practiced releasing her desires without attachment to specific channels, trusting the infinite to know the best pathway for each manifestation. This brings me to an essential teaching about the nature of timing. When you release a desire to your subconscious mind, you must also release your attachment to when the manifestation should occur. Your conscious mind, operating within the illusion of linear time, wants results now, immediately, without delay. But the infinite intelligence operates from a perspective that transcends time. It sees the entire tapestry of your life at once, and it knows precisely when each thread should be woven in for the pattern to be complete and beautiful. Sometimes what seems like delay is actually protection. Sometimes the timing that frustrates your impatience is actually serving purposes you cannot perceive. Sometimes the manifestation that seems slow is actually fast when measured against what needs to be prepared, both in outer circumstances and in your own consciousness. In the second chapter of Habakkuk, the third verse, we find this counsel, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak, and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." Notice the seeming contradiction. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will not tarry. What does this mean? It means that from the perspective of infinite wisdom, there is no delay. The appointed time is perfect. But from your limited perspective, it may appear to tarry, to take longer than you expected or desired. Your job during this apparent waiting period is to wait in faith, not in doubt. Wait with expectancy, not with anxiety. Wait as one who knows that what is coming is already accomplished in the invisible realm and is simply working its way into visible manifestation. There was a woman named Helena who tested this principle to its limit. Helena had impressed upon her subconscious mind the reality of owning her own home. She had rented apartments her entire adult life, and she longed for the stability and pride of home ownership. She felt this desire with deep emotion, released it completely to her deeper mind, and opened herself to receive it in whatever form and through whatever channel the infinite chose. Then she waited. She waited for 1 year, and nothing happened. She waited for 2 years, and still nothing materialized. Her friends began to question whether her practice was worthwhile. Her own doubts began to rise. But Helena remembered the teaching, though it tarry, wait for it. She continued her practice. She refused to abandon her faith. In the 3rd year, Helena met a man who would become her husband. He was not wealthy, and when they married, home ownership still seemed distant. But she continued to hold her vision with faith. In the 5th year of her practice, Helena's mother-in-law passed away and left them a small sum of money. It was not enough for a down payment on any house they had looked at. Helena was tempted to feel discouraged, but something whispered to her to wait, to remain in faith. 3 weeks after receiving this inheritance, Helena saw a listing for a foreclosed property in a neighborhood she had always admired. The bank was eager to sell, and the price was a fraction of market value. The small inheritance was exactly enough for the down payment. Within 60 days, Helena was standing in her own home, the home she had impressed upon her mind 5 years earlier. When Helena looked back over the 5 years of apparent waiting, she saw that every element had been essential. If the manifestation had come immediately, she would not have met her husband. If it had come in year 2 or 3, the foreclosure opportunity would not have been available. If her mother-in-law had passed at a different time, the funds would not have aligned with the property. What had seemed like delay was actually perfect orchestration across 5 years of circumstances, preparing a manifestation far greater than what she would have received if her impatient timeline had been honored. This is why releasing includes releasing your timeline. You impress the what. You release the how and the when. You trust that the appointed time, though it may tarry to your perception, is perfect from the perspective of omniscience. Let me now speak about the role of gratitude in accelerating manifestation. Gratitude is not merely a pleasant emotion. It is a powerful creative force that aligns your consciousness with abundance and opens wider channels for receiving. When you feel grateful, you are acknowledging that you have already received something of value. This acknowledgement sends a clear signal to your subconscious mind that receiving is natural to you, that you are one who receives, that receiving is an established pattern in your experience. The subconscious then works to produce more experiences that match this pattern. Begin practicing gratitude for your abundance before it visibly appears. This is an advanced application of the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Thank your deeper mind for the wealth that is now flowing into your experience. Thank the infinite intelligence for the provision that is on its way. Thank the universe for the opportunities that are being arranged even now for your benefit. This is not pretending or self-deception. This is operating from the understanding that what you have impressed in consciousness is already real in the subjective realm, and thanking in advance is simply acknowledging this reality before it becomes visible to your physical senses. In the Gospel of John, the 11th chapter, Jesus stands before the sealed tomb of Lazarus and offers a prayer that reveals this principle: Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. He thanks before the manifestation. He acknowledges the answered prayer while Lazarus still lies dead in the tomb. He operates from the end, from the completed work, rather than from the beginning where the evidence suggests impossibility. When you thank in advance for your financial abundance, you are doing what the Master did before the raising of Lazarus. You are aligning yourself with the completed work. You are standing in consciousness at the end rather than struggling at the beginning. This is faith in its purest expression. Make gratitude a constant practice. When you wake in the morning, spend a few moments thanking for the abundance of the coming day. When you eat a meal, thank for the provision that made the food possible. When you pay a bill, thank that you had the means to pay it and trust that more is flowing to take its place. When you see evidence of abundance anywhere in your world, in nature, in others' lives, in the beauty that surrounds you, thank for the infinite generosity of the source that produces such plenty. As you cultivate this habit of gratitude, you will notice your entire relationship with money beginning to shift. Anxiety will give way to appreciation. Grasping will give way to generosity. Scarcity will give way to sufficiency. You will find that you feel wealthy long before your bank account confirms it, and this feeling of wealth will become the mold into which material abundance inevitably flows. I want to speak now about a subtle but essential aspect of the allowing phase, the practice of non-resistance. When you resist something, you give it power over you. When you fight against conditions of lack, you energize those very conditions with the force of your opposition. The secret of allowing is to remove all resistance, all opposition, all fighting against what is, while simultaneously holding fast to your vision of what shall be. This seems paradoxical but becomes clear with understanding. You accept your current circumstances without struggle, knowing that they are the outpicturing of previous states of consciousness that no longer define you. You do not waste energy fighting against what has already manifested. But you also do not accept these circumstances as permanent or as indicative of your future. You look beyond them to the new reality that is forming in your consciousness and that will inevitably become the new outpicturing. Consider water flowing toward the ocean. When it encounters an obstacle, it does not fight against the obstacle. It does not beat itself uselessly against the stone. It flows around, finding the path of least resistance, never for a moment forgetting its destination or doubting its arrival. This is the image of non-resistance combined with certainty. There was a merchant named Solomon who learned this practice during a period of severe business difficulty. His inventory had been damaged in a flood, his insurance claim had been denied, and he faced what appeared to be total ruin. His first response was to fight, to rage against the unfairness of his situation, to battle the insurance company with threats and lawsuits, to struggle frantically to save what remained of his business. This fighting only exhausted him and deepened his sense of defeat. Every court appearance drained his resources. Every confrontation left him more depleted. He was like a man thrashing in quicksand, accelerating his own sinking through the very effort he made to escape. Then Solomon remembered the principle of non-resistance. He stopped fighting. He accepted his current circumstances without struggle, acknowledging that this was where he found himself without wasting energy on outrage or victimhood. But he did not accept these circumstances as his final chapter. He began impressing upon his mind a new reality, a restored and even greater business, abundance flowing to him through unexpected channels. With his energy no longer dissipated in fighting, Solomon found himself thinking more clearly. New ideas arose from within. He saw opportunities he had been too agitated to notice before. He made decisions from wisdom rather than desperation. Within 18 months, Solomon had not merely restored his business but had expanded into 2 additional locations. The flood that had seemed like his destruction had become the catalyst for his greatest growth. This is the power of non-resistance. You conserve the energy that fighting would waste. You remain clear enough to perceive guidance and opportunity. You align yourself with the flow of life rather than positioning yourself against it. And from this position of non-resistance, you allow your good to come to you rather than chasing it with desperate effort. As we approach the conclusion of this teaching, I want to remind you of the most important truth of all. The power that creates your financial reality is not outside you. It is not in the economy, not in your employer, not in the government, not in the stock market, not in any external condition or circumstance. The power is within you, specifically within your subconscious mind, which is connected to the infinite source of all supply. When you understand this, truly understand it at the level of conviction rather than mere intellectual assent, you become free. Free from fear of economic conditions. Free from dependence on the decisions of others. Free from the anxiety that comes from believing you are at the mercy of forces beyond your control. You recognize that you are the operant power in your world. You are the one who impresses. You are the one who releases. You are the one who allows. And therefore, you are the one who manifests. The 12 disciples worried about how they would find food and lodging as they traveled to spread their teaching. Jesus reminded them to consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin, yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. The flowers do not struggle. They do not strategize. They do not anxiously plan. They simply open themselves to the provision that nature makes available, and they are clothed in beauty beyond anything human effort could produce. You are infinitely more precious than flowers. You have been given conscious access to the creative law that governs all manifestation. You can deliberately choose what to impress upon your deeper mind. You can consciously practice the art of release and allowing. You have capacities that no flower possesses. How much more, then, shall the abundance of the universe be available to you when you learn to work with the law rather than against it? The 33-33-33 money rule is your framework for this learning. It ensures that you give equal attention to all 3 phases of the creative process. It protects you from the common error of impressing without releasing or releasing without allowing. It brings you into harmony with the way manifestation actually works. Apply this teaching beginning tonight. Do not wait for a more convenient time. Do not postpone your transformation until circumstances improve. The improvement of circumstances is what you are seeking, and it comes through application of the law, not through waiting for permission from conditions that will never grant it. In the quiet of this evening, before you sleep, spend time in the impression phase. Feel your wealth as already accomplished. Dwell in the reality of abundance until it saturates your consciousness. Then move into the release phase. Let it go completely. Surrender it to the wisdom within. Trust absolutely. Finally, rest in the allowing phase. Feel worthy to receive. Open yourself to your good. Welcome it in advance, knowing that it comes. Do this tonight, and tomorrow, and the night after, until this practice becomes as natural as breathing. Watch what happens in your outer world as your inner world transforms. Notice the synchronicities, the opportunities, the unexpected provision that begins to flow. Keep a record if you wish, so that you can look back and see the law in operation. And remember always that these teachings are offered not as promises of specific outcomes, but as educational insights into principles that many have found transformative in their own experience. The philosophy of the subconscious mind has helped countless individuals discover new relationships with prosperity and abundance. Yet each person's path is unique, and you are encouraged to apply your own wisdom and take inspired action that aligns with your particular circumstances. What I have shared with you represents original reflection on the general principles of mental science and prosperity consciousness. These ideas belong to no single teacher but flow from the accumulated wisdom of ages, expressed through those who have understood the relationship between mind and manifestation. Apply them as tools for self-discovery. Use them as doorways to your own deeper knowing. Let them inspire you to explore what is possible when you align your consciousness with abundance. As you go forward from this teaching, carry with you the certainty that you possess within yourself everything needed to transform your financial life. You are not broken. You are not lacking. You are not destined for poverty or struggle. You are an expression of infinite intelligence, connected at the deepest level to unlimited supply. The 33-33-33 money rule has changed the lives of those who have understood and applied it. Let it change yours. Let this be the turning point you look back on with gratitude, the moment when you stopped working against the law and began working with it, The night when everything shifted because you finally understood how abundance truly manifests. The riches of the infinite are not reserved for a select few. They are available to all who learn to align themselves with the creative process. You are learning this alignment now. You are stepping into your rightful relationship with the source of all supply. And as you continue this practice with faith and persistence, you will witness the transformation that inevitably follows the application of eternal law. May you be blessed with the wisdom to impress with feeling, the trust to release completely, and the worthiness to allow abundantly. May your path be illuminated by the understanding you have received. And may your life become a testimony to the power that sleeps within every human heart, awaiting only the touch of knowledge and faith to awaken it into glorious expression. The power is within you. It has always been within you. Use it wisely, use it faithfully, and watch as your world transforms before your eyes. Go now in peace, in confidence, and in the absolute certainty that your good is on its way. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be delayed beyond its appointed time. It is as certain as the rising of tomorrow's sun. And so it is.